Hello, guys. It's Harry the Visionary Smith again, back to talk to you on YouTube about another game show that I have created. Really starting to love the fact that people are responding to the first show that I gave you guys and talked to you about. And that one was more user friendly as far as you playing with your family and you playing at home and getting a whiteboard and using dollar store dice to play. And of course we use the hand size dice because I know back in the day some of you guys were, like Ashy Larry, basically you were really good, so we didn't want anybody to, be able to cheat. So we decided to use dice that fit in your hand so you can't put any English on them, and old school folks know what I'm talking about. But today we're going to talk about another game that I have, and the game basically what it is, it's under the same dice concept where you have 11 numbers on the board. You have 2 sevens, of course, because when you roll 2 dice, you can't come up with a number 1. So I'm going to show you the game board just as I showed you before with the letter board and, with famous people, places, and things. But this time we're going to be doing famous people, places, and things, but we're going to use pictures. It's going to be a little harder to create these kind of game boards to play at home. The whiteboard for letters and phrases and things like that is a lot easier because, of course, you can create that at home. Basically, I'm going to show you what my game board looks like for the picture game show. And here it is. As you see, there is a 7. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Of course, as we talked about in the last game, 12, as you can see here, you lose a turn. 2, oh craps, and 3 is next. So basically, if you roll these numbers, just as in Vegas, you're not going to win. You're basically going to either lose your turn or you're going to either just pass the dice over to the next player. Now, this particular game that I'm showing you here is a little more fancy, and I did that for, visual effect. But at the same time, it still has the same effect as the other game board, even though this is not whiteboard. I actually use Velcro to attach these flaps, which, if this was a digital game, which is how we will be doing the television games, you will be looking at a digital board, and we won't have Vanna white, but, we may have somebody there, but we don't know exactly who it will be. But at the same time, it could be somebody behind the stage just pushing a button to remove a flap or remove a panel from the game, or it could just be electronically done. But anyway, for YouTube's sake, I've done it this way. So basically, we're going to start off the same way we started off the other games, and I'm going to roll dice just to give you an idea of where we're going now. And now, just so you know, again, there is a famous person behind all of these numbers. So I'm going to roll the dice as if I'm the first contestant, and amazingly, I rolled a 7. I rolled a 1, and I rolled a 6. How's that for luck, huh? Okay, so when I roll the 7 for the first contestant, I'm basically going to pull off the 7s, and it says double flip because we're going to flip over 2 numbers. That's 1 7 I'm flipping over, and that's another 7 I'm flipping over. Now you can take a look at this picture and say, well, hey, I think I might have a clue that that person is African American. Yes, they are. And basically, that might be a good clue, but you may still not be able to figure out who it is. And just for game's sake, because you rolled a 7, that contestant will actually get a chance to roll again. Because anytime you roll a 7 or 11, you get a second turn. So that person is rolling, and I just rolled for them, and we rolled an 8. So we're going to come over here and look at the 8. As I told you guys before, I'm right-handed, and I'm using my left hand sometimes, so forgive me if it's a little awkward. So we'll remove the 8, and the next person will have about 5 seconds to decide if they know who the puzzle board is. And if they can't decide, we'll move on to the next player. So let's say they didn't know who that was. And we'll roll again, and the next person rolled an 8. So because they were not the initial person to roll an 8, and the person prior to them rolled an 8, they will have to pass the dice on. And we can't, of course, flip over the 8 twice because it's already been flipped over. So this will go, the dice will move on to the next person. Oh, one of the things I left out, of course, is that each number represents an amount of money on the television game show, or points, basically however you want to look at it. So prior, when the person rolled over the 7, they ended up with for YouTube's sake, they end up with 14 points because there were two sevens that we rolled over, or they would end up with 70 plus 70, which is 140, or they would end up with 700 plus 700, which is what we'll be doing on television, which would give them $1,400. The person who rolled the 8 prior would get $8, 8 points, or 80 points, or 800 points, or $800. However you decide you want to do the calculations. But okay, since that person rolled an 8, they will have to pass the dice back to the first contestant. First contestant rolls again, and I just rolled a 12. So of course we know that 12, you lose a turn. So that first contestant we will take off the panel, but they will not get an opportunity to guess. Now we might see something that gives you a really good idea of who this might be, because what I think we see there are some dreadlocks. So even though that person rolled a 12 and we exposed more of the puzzle, because they rolled a 12, they will not, and they lose a turn, they will not get a chance to guess. But the next person who will have the chance to roll, now they don't have to guess before they roll. They can actually roll and win more money. So I just rolled for that person again. Well, actually I rolled because it went off the table. And that person actually rolled a 7. The 7s are already gone. So basically they get to roll again. So I'll roll for them again. And that person ended up rolling a 12. Now, unfortunately for them, because they rolled a 7 and they got to roll, and the 7s weren't there and they got to roll again, 12's not there either. But the 12 would have caused them to lose a turn. But even though they lost a turn, because they rolled a 7 first, I'm going to allow them to take a guess. And that person guesses Bob Marley, they would be absolutely right. And then what would happen is all the panels would come down at that point, and everyone would be able to see that the contestant that guessed Bob Marley was absolutely right. And when they guessed Bob Marley and they were right, we would give them an automatic $500 or an automatic 500 points to go along with the points or the money they had already accumulated. Basically, this is the premise of the game. I think this is the game that people are going to just go crazy for. The networks are going to love it, cable and major networks. We've basically done some pitching and we've gotten some really good feedback. But now I'm exposing it on YouTube because I feel like people might want to enjoy these games at home, specifically the letter or the phrase or the other game that I showed on my first YouTube show. But anyway, just wanted to give you guys an idea of what Harry the Visionary Smith has been up to, and these are the kind of things I've been doing, guys. And as you know, I'm a creator. I'm all about trying to get that cheddar. And basically what I understand now is this is going to be one of those things that's probably going to make me a multi-millionaire and a multi-billionaire. So you probably are familiar with some of the older, games that are on television, like The Feud and like Jeopardy and like Wheel of Fortune. Well, we're coming after you guys, and we're about to take over the game show industry. And Mark Goodson, Bill Todman Productions, Merv Griffin, all of you guys who have those old games that have been on television for 30, 40 years, well, your time is up. Here comes the Eugenius Enterprise team, and we're about to take over. Guys, thanks for tuning in again, and I'll have another game for you soon. Take care.